Well, good morning and welcome to another Inspiration interview as part of Birmingham Wheelchair Basketball Make Change. And it's great to have today Agbeze. A pleasure to meet you. I mean, yeah, we've done so much together with the Commonwealth Games, and I've still got the photos with regards to the medal that we did finally at the Sandwell, which was amazing. So brilliant to meet you and talk to you and talk about the Commonwealth and the community. Thank you so much for doing the interview. Obviously, we've got Jay Poppet as well for Make Change.
Or Popat.
Oh, I didn't correct the incorrect pronunciation of my name. I just thought I'll roll with it for the interview. But
I do apologise.
He does it to me all the time, Emma. He does it on purpose.
In my fairness, right, I'm very bad with names, but I put that down to old age.
He keeps calling me Ray.
It's true though. You are called Ray. I didn't say that. That was
Ray, your mum.
UTFM said that, Ray. Jay.
Sounds pretty street though, don't it? Ray J.
Oh no, please. No one told me I was coming here for dad jokes.
As I say, it's a pleasure to speak to you and work with you, and the amazing things you've achieved and done through the community to support things where the future's going, especially with legacy. But where did it start for you, and what motivates and inspires you and gives you that passion and determination to achieve?
Well, I feel like I have a bit of an inner drive. I think everyone has some inner drive, even if they don't think they do. But I think I just enjoyed sport and just did it because I loved it and I wanted to do everything. So rounders, hockey, tennis, athletics, netball, football, cricket. And so I just did those things because I love them. And I think I'm actually quite driven by people telling me that I can't do things. So my parents were very into education. And so they never really said I couldn't do sport. It was more, make sure you study. And if you have finished all your homework and that type of thing, then you can go out and do sport and play and that type of thing. And then I think as I started to get into netball more seriously, I also did athletics as well, but both of those, people would say, oh, you're not cut out to be a 100-meter sprinter, or you're not cut out to be a netballer, or you're not an attacker in netball. And those kind of things sort of motivated me to prove those people wrong. So I think it's just using whatever onus you have to motivate yourself. And I think it's changed throughout my career. Different things have motivated me. Sometimes it's my family, my husband. Other times it's my teammates. I'm not a very good trainer, so fitness was never my thing. And so I had to find ways. In the early days, I could just make up that I'd done the training when I actually hadn't. And then eventually I realized that you get found out. And so there were times where I had a training session to do by myself outside of a team netball program. And I remember, I think I drove from Birmingham to Manchester just to meet up with a teammate to do a 400-meter track session, just so that she could help. The fact that she was there would make me push myself and keep going. And so, yeah, just finding ways to motivate yourself if you're struggling to find it within yourself.
Thank you. I mean, we talk about motivation, inspiration, and it's really important to share through stories and challenges to support the community. But how does that support the community with inclusion and diversity in the community, but build on resilience and determination?
I think they kind of go hand in hand, because resilience, I think, is built up from pushing through and trying to do things against when you face barriers. And I think the community is a community and it is diverse, but I think society struggles to include people and also just, I think, see things from the perspective of other people. And so I think when you're faced with challenges, if you can persist and push through, that becomes part of your motivation. But then also other people see that you've done it and they see you and they're like, oh, well, she looks like me, or she's, let's say, for example, she's in a wheelchair and she's doing that, which means that actually I can probably do that, because if someone else can do it, why can't I? And those people who aren't doing things might have been told it's not possible for them to do. They can't join this class because there's no one with disability, or they can't join this class because, or they can't play this sport because they're too tall, or that type of thing. And so I think in the community, people doing things drives other people to want to do them or think that they can achieve them. So I think it's a circle really. If you struggle to do something but you keep pushing through and do it, you feel really good about yourself, but then other people actually aspire to be just like you.
Fantastic. We talk about young people, and you were part of the Commonwealth Games. We support the road shows. We met up at as I said, at the community road shows, supporting, engaging with people, and and that was a massive, massive, support and benefit for people in Birmingham, not only the West, but also the West Midlands, but also the UK. What would your message be to young people, especially in the community and people in the community, especially young women who have been through trauma, impacting issues, mental health, dealing with disability conditions or issues, or as in part of crisis of their daily life, inspiring motivation, aspirations, and resilience for the future? How does that work? How does that support? And what would your message be?
The one thing I think, if I could only choose one, I'm not very good at choosing individual things or favorites. But I would say take it a step at a time. So if you decide on something that you want to do, it can be really difficult. And I think, as you mentioned, with mental health, with physical impairments, with any sort of, basically anybody and everyone can struggle with things, even if you don't have poor mental health. But one step at a time, I think, is the way. So, as my mum always says, Rome wasn't built in a day. So you might want to you might want to run a marathon, and you're currently stuck in bed, and you've not been out of the house for weeks. Well, the first step would be, okay, today I'm just going to put my legs over the side of the bed. That might be all that you do that day in your long-term plan of I'm going to run a marathon. But that's enough for that one day. And then you might have to do that for every day for a week. So it's not just a case of, oh, I've done that today. Tomorrow I'm going to just stand up and get out of bed, because that might not be possible for you. But I think if you take whatever incremental steps it may be to get to where you want to go, it can help. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of motivation and support, getting someone along to help you, and it might not be the same person, and you might not have to tell them about the goal. If you're embarrassed or worried or scared or afraid, or you worried about motivation in terms of telling someone and then not achieving it, and then again adding another failure in your opinion, you don't need to tell them about what it is you're doing. You just need to say, for example, I might say to my sister, oh, can you call me at 8 o'clock in the morning? And then in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'll use that call when she calls me. That will be my time to say, put my legs over to the side of the bed, and I'll have that conversation with my legs over the edge of the bed. And so she's motivating me and supporting me, but she doesn't even know that. And so I think trying to find ways to get yourself to do what it is you need to do, but in small incremental steps. And eventually you'll look back and wonder, how was I not running these marathons every day?
Thank you. I mean, with regards to your own experiences, and you talk about your motivation, but how do you take care of your mental well-being as part of your daily life, and how does this build on your resilience and determination?
I've actually really struggled. I think lots of elite athletes suffer with or struggle with their mental health, and I am one of them. And lockdown had a massive, like, detrimental impact on my mental health. And then also I played professionally last year and previous years, but I didn't play professionally this year. And so I've had a lot to deal with in terms of I'm not a professional athlete anymore, and I was struggling with my mental health anyway, coming out during and coming out of lockdown. And so it's been a real, I think, journey for me trying to work out what I can do to help myself and support myself. And I think previously being around a team was a really good support for me. And I didn't have a team anymore because I wasn't in a playing professional sport, and I didn't even play at the amateur level. So I think I've struggled, or sort of worked my way around trying to deal with how to best manage my mental health and work and support myself. So yeah, I'm still working that out, but I think exercise is a really key thing. Everyone says exercise boosts your physical and mental health, and that's something that I know, but it's still also difficult. So there'd be times where I'd be thinking, I just need to go out even for a walk, and I wouldn't. And then I'd get to the end of the day, having beaten myself up the whole day, draining energy, having less good mental health because I've been pressuring myself. And so I think also learning to take it easy on myself and say, okay, I'm just going to set a small goal. I didn't manage to go out for a run today, so tomorrow maybe if I just do say 1,000 steps, that is enough. And then once you've done it, it might be really small, but it's incredible. So I'm just like, oh my god, celebrating that I've done 1,000 steps, which is tiny, like in a day. If you just walk around the house, you surely should not chuck more than 1,000 steps. But sometimes just taking those small wins was enough for me to help my mental health. And then I think looking back, I'm thinking I've done X or I've done Y, and those are like massive things which people tell me. I think I never really appreciated the things that I have done or can do. And so sometimes just looking back and thinking, oh, I did that and that was great. And so if I can do that, doing 1,000 steps in a day, I can get through it. So yeah, I think just constantly self-talk is a massive, massive thing. And I think as an athlete, you constantly learn to assess yourself, evaluate what's going on, understand the situation, and then use that feedback to improve. And so I've just been trying to draw on those type of skills that I learned as an athlete, and hopefully I will come out at the end, but it's definitely still a work in progress.
Thanks, so Matt. I know Jay wants to answer questions. Well, ask you a few questions. So before we go into our quick fire round, which I always do now as part of our interviews, so I'll let you have a brief think about things. And Jay, over to you.
I think. Oh, sorry, I've been writing. I'm like, wow, some of this is amazing. It's coming out, yeah, there's so much good stuff to pull from everything you just said there. But the big thing for me is that you just said there, and I think like as an advice for anybody else listening is sometimes we have to learn to be able to look after ourselves like we would look after someone else. You know what I mean? And I think that stuff that you mentioned about really like taking care to take the time to self-assess and look at oneself is important. So that's massive. Thank you very much. In the last since 2006, I remember first seeing you on the Commonwealth Games, I think, compete. But in short, what's your biggest achievement so far?
Wow.
Sorry, I've just dropped a big one on you there. Sorry.
That is a big one. And I feel like it's really hard. I'm starting to. So we won you mentioned the 2006 Commonwealth Games. And I think when you're a young aspiring elite athlete, you just want to get selected to like carry the bags, and then you want to go training, you're happy to like, I'll pack up the balls, just pick me. And then it builds up from there. So then you're like, okay, I've carried the balls and now I just want to sit on the bench as one of the 12. I don't need to play in the game. And then you want to get on court for a short time, and then you want to start. And so I remember before those Commonwealth Games, I was just like, I just want to go to Commonwealth Games, I don't even need to play. And so that was massive at the time. And then obviously since then I've been to more Commonwealth Games and captain the team to gold. And people always say, oh, well, it must be winning gold, like winning that gold medal and being the captain at the 2018 games. And I don't know that it is. I think I've been through that many things. It's probably just getting to like being selected for the things I've been selected for, because the journey's been so long and so troublesome, probably a good word, in terms of injury, not being selected, so many things. So in 2014, I went to the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. And then in 2015, it was a World Cup in Sydney, and I didn't get selected and was pretty much told, why are you still playing netball? And then the next year, I got back into the squad, got selected for a series, and won player of the series against Australia, and then ended up being named captain. And so I think my biggest achievement is probably sticking at it and not listening when people said, why are you still here? I changed positions. So I started as a goal attack goal shooter and played most of my international career, or half of my international career there. Was not very good at shooting. It just wasn't me. I didn't practice enough. My percentage was appalling. And ended up transitioning to become a defender, which doesn't really happen at the elite level. So if you play for England and you're a shooter and you're not very good, you don't play for England anymore. And so I managed to navigate playing for England for 10 or so years and then becoming a defender playing for England. And so those kind of things, I think I look back and I think, well, that's actually the biggest thing for me, because if I hadn't stuck at it and gone through those transitions and had those tough times and the times where I'd be in tears crying because people said I was nowhere near the standard that's needed. If I hadn't done those, I wouldn't have captained the team to the gold medal. So I think the biggest thing for me is just that resilience and sticking at it.
Massive. I was just writing that. I literally just wrote the word down just to prove it's right there. I was like, pure resilience, right? So like, wow. And I think that's really important for people who are listening, like, because sometimes, always actually, like, I can't count on my hands how many failures we have in a week. Like Andy and I often have conversations on a daily basis about things that have gone wrong, and it's like these little failures, but how you deal with them is like massive, isn't it? And I think like that must have been really difficult, being kind of like not selected and then coming back. That shows a massive amount of resilience.
Yeah, and it was really tough. It was things like, and also when I didn't get selected in 2015, I was a training partner, and so say I think I found out in an email on the Friday, and then on the Monday had to go into camp to train with the players who were selected, and I was distraught. I was a complete mess throughout the weekend, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't in a position to go to camp because I was just like, I can't give of myself. I can't train. I can't be around the people who are really jovial because they're going and they're getting a new kit and they've got the accolade of going to a world champs. Um, and I kind of was told I have to be there, otherwise don't come back. And so just even like mustering the strength to get make that drive and be there for the camp, I think it was a week, was like massive for me. And so yeah, so when I think of how I felt in that time, like looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I did it. But if I actually try and connect with the emotion, it was so tough. And it wasn't just a case of, oh, I just need to get there and then I'll feel better. It's I get there and then I'm just constantly surrounded by people who are going to the games, really excited. They'll go off and do a press conference or get their kit, and you'll just go and do extra gym sessions because you're not going and you don't have the extra kit and things. And so yeah, I just think it was they were tough times. And I managed to get through. So
Wow.
I guess they made me a better person, as they say.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just tapping into that, sorry to go even deeper on some of that, but like, so obviously that there was that period of time, that must have been a hard time, as you've rightly alluded to. But then to come back, become captain, win a gold medal, like, wow, what happened in that time? What changes were made in that time that made that difference? Like,
yeah, I want to say nothing. I was always like that.
yeah.
Someone realised. No, although actually, I do think I it's funny because I'm not really a confident person, and I think you have to just sort of like flag your way through life. Sometimes a lot of people do, but and I think that's why sort of failing or deselection is really tough, because in my mind I'm probably already thinking I'm nowhere. I shouldn't even be here anyway. Full stop. So I'm like pushing and driving to be here. And so then if you're telling me, oh, well, you shouldn't be here, then I'm in my mind, I'm probably there's part of my brain going, oh, she's so right. Oh my God, you've been found out. Like you shouldn't be here. Like just go. And so I think it is really tough to try and overcome those thoughts that are constantly in your mind. But then there's the other side of my brain that's like, of course you should be here. Like who else should be here? You've done all the work. You've been a part of this team. You know your skills. You know your ability. And so it's just that constant conversation in your mind. And I, it was quite a fast turnaround. So the World Cup was in, I think, July in 2015. And then there was a series against Australia in maybe I was going to say September, but it would be it was in 2015, so no later than December. And so in that short space of time, there wasn't a massive amount that I could have changed, although I did obviously keep training and doing stuff. But so I think it was a combination of me trying to prove people wrong, but then also I think a realization from people that actually I am somebody who could who could feature and who could be decent. And so yeah, I think it was just a mindset thing, but also even just opportunity, because typically after a World Cup, lots of people retire. Like lots of sports, it works on a 4-year cycle. So there's 2 years build up, Commonwealth Games is the third year, and then World Cup is the fourth year, and then people reassess their lives. It's a big commitment. So some people retire, some people take time out, and the squad had been depleted. And so to be honest, I got selected. Maybe if everyone who had gone to the World Cup was there, I might not have been selected at that time for that series, because I didn't go to the World Cup. So maybe the coach and selectors might have thought similar things to what they thought about prior to World Cup. And so yeah, I guess opportunistically, lots of people weren't available. There was probably a very small number of defenders, and I don't know whether there was only you for a series you pick 4 defenders typically. I don't know whether there were 4 defenders available, and so I happened to be there, so I got selected. I made the fitness target, and so I guess they say you've got to be in it to win it, and so I was in it, and then people realised actually it's not so bad after all.
Fantastic.
Wow. I've just got one other really quick one. So this question I have is, so not only that, you've also studied law and you graduated with a law degree as well. So whilst being an athlete and having to also balance the athlete lifestyle with academic lifestyle, wow, what was that journey like? Because there's lots of people who will be listening to this who will be doing the same, taking on the same journey and planning out for the same journey in the future.
Yeah, and actually, I think now that I've come out of my professional career, I am grateful that I did the hard slog and became a lawyer. It was really tough. I remember actually just before my finals going on a tour to Australia and New Zealand. I don't know if it was a 6 or 8 week tour, and my personal tutor was the dean of the law school, a scary man. I avoided any meetings with him. But I had no choice. I had to go to him and say, "Oh, I've got this tour coming up before finals," and he said, "Of course you're not going." And I was like, and so I took, it must have been like 7 law textbooks. They were humongous, and we didn't have much space. So I think each player had 30 kilos of luggage allowance, but because we had so much like physio and medical equipment, they said to the players, "You've only got, I think, 17 or so kilos." And so most of my 7, and obviously you had set kit, but there's a kit list of everyone needs to look the same at certain times. So there's set things you need to bring. And then you wanted to take your own clothes because it was such a long tour. You would hopefully get some time off. And I think more than half of the space of mine, I took up with law books. And I remember at the start of the tour, we stayed in apartments. And so we had a lounge, and I put my law books on the lounge table, on the coffee table, and there they stayed for untouched for pretty much most of the time. And so I kind of like carted these books around and was just like, I had every good intention. And then once you started training like 2 or 3 times a day, it was just like, I'm so exhausted. So I definitely did do as well as I could have done, but I think it was just the fact that I did it somehow. I don't even know. I just remember times where I think I lived in Birmingham, went to uni in Leicester, and I used to train in Loughborough. So I would get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd drive to Loughborough and do like a weights or fitness session, and then I'd drive to Leicester, do uni, and then drive back to Loughborough and then train, and then get back to Birmingham, depending on whether I had netball or just a fitness or sort of endurance recovery, whatever session. I'd get to Birmingham around maybe 10, 11 midnight. And then I'd eat a snack or eat dinner and then do it all again in the next morning. And it was tough. And then there was times where I had to drive to Bath to go training, or go training once a week in London. And it was really difficult. And there were times where I'd be falling asleep driving, like quite often. And my mum would be like, "Oh, you really need to be careful. You need to stop, cut back on netball, just focus on your uni." And yeah, there'd be times where I'd wake up startled, like slamming on my brakes because I was about to hit the car in front. And I don't recommend that to anybody. But yeah, I don't know. If you said to me to do it now, I'd say I can't, I don't have it in me. But yeah, I think it was just a drive to try and achieve that in education and also achieve in sport as well.
But all too often, like as you're saying that, I'm writing I think in ink. So like I'm literally writing words as you're talking. So like I'm just writing like the big word that came out that I've written there is like graft. This girl grafts. Like, yeah, resilience is massive, and there's a level of authenticity with you that you don't meet. And I'm not just saying that, like, obviously we've seen each other a few times at Commonwealth Games and stuff, but there's an authenticity with everything you seem to do at AMA, even whether it's on like BBC and you're commentating or you're presenting. There's just this level of authenticity and commitment to it that is like, it's nice to see. It makes you feel like you can trust what's being said. So that's amazing. But it's also like, I like to think that like that gold medal and all the other achievements and accolades that have come were actually won in all that graft that you put in before, I'm sure.
I think so. I think even just being as like when I was the captain, just the experiences that I've had, people watching, I love people watching, understanding people, all that I think I threw into being the captain and trying to understand each individual person in the team and what it meant to them, how much they went through, what their background was, what made them tick. And so I think there's a lot of talk around, oh, it's about the whole person. But I think at the elite level, sometimes it's just sort of tokenism, like just talk. And essentially they're just like, we just need you to win. And if you can't help us, we'll get rid of you and get someone else. And I understand that that's how it's a machine, that's how it works. But you can actually pay attention to people and understand what they're about and appreciate them for that. And also you get the best out of people when you understand them and support them and give them what they want. And so yeah, so I think just all those years of having to do whatever I had to do helped, and I guess made me the person that I am, which then I wanted to help support other people to be the best that they could be for the wider goal of the team. And I think one of my teammates once said to me, oh, why would you not want to? And I wanted to be on the court. Obviously, if you're an elite athlete, you're there because you have a degree of selfishness to you, in you. You want to be there. It's all about you being the best that you can be. And one of my teammates said, "Oh, but I don't understand how you can like give so much to people who are on court and really want them to do well." She was like, "I feel like in the team, people kind of support people, but it's almost like you happily people in your position, you're like giving them everything and telling them everything." And I was like, because if the team do well, I do well. And so it's not just it isn't just about me. And I think elite sport is very much it's about me. And so I think that's a really difficult balance to achieve in an elite team sport because everyone is just out. You want to be selected. You do. There's no two ways about it. But actually, it's trying to understand that if you're in the team and the team win, you win. There's no two ways about it. So yeah, I think everything that I've been through has just helped shape me. And I think you mentioned like authenticity. I think so many people are trying to be something that they're not, or trying to portray um the ideal as opposed to what they that really truly are. And I don't have the energy. I think all that graft just basically it's taken it out of me. I've got nothing to give. I can just be me. Yeah, I just feel I try and just put my energy into whatever it is. If I'm passionate about it, that I'll just bring myself because I don't have the time or the energy to do to do anything else.
Well, the very last thing I wanted to say, Andy, is what I'm most offended by, and I don't get offended, but the fact that you was in Leicester, now you're not here anymore. What happened? It's a great city.
I do actually. Leicester's really eclectic. I didn't know that you were from there, but clearly I've got some sort of intuition that is directing me to better places where you're not.
I'm not saying nothing to that, Jack.
I can't believe she's done it as well. I said that. I can't believe it again.
All I know is that I get the stories about the time he showed you wheelchair basketball and you could never shoot, apparently.
That's right, Andy. That's right.
I did tell you in netball I couldn't shoot. Wheelchair basketball, and this is what, again, inclusion. I was talking to my sixth yesterday about I'd love to. I do sort of corporate speaking and that type of thing, and sort of talk on team building and resilience. And I said I would love to just go into corporates and or schools or wherever, and just my session wouldn't be any delivery or talking or understanding or conversations. It would be welcome everybody. I'm Amma. There's some wheelchairs outside. Everyone's got a wheelchair, and we're in London. We're currently in, let's say, we're in London Bridge, and I need you to meet me in Kensington at whatever time. And then I'll say, you don't need to stick together. Here's your money for the, here's your card to tag onto the tube. And that's literally it. And then we'll do a review session when they get to Kensington, because if you can't appreciate the world from other people's perspectives unless you actually take the time to think about it. And if you are in a wheelchair in London, I don't know how people manage to navigate to places. That trip would probably take you 3 hours, because there's not many stations that have step-free access. You've got to ask people for things. Sometimes there's not drop curbs in places. Just so many small things that we don't really appreciate. And I'm the same. I take for granted the fact that I can just get up and walk, and I can put into the journey planner, I need to get to X place, and I can get there. And so I think that is, yeah, about society being inclusive. So I'm on a mission to set up my diversity wheelchair mission. And I know that you guys have a lot of wheelchairs, so you can probably help me.
I think what you just said there is spot on. I think, like, when it comes to equality, diversity, and inclusion, everyone says them really well, like really speaks the words, but all too often they're said with really small E, D, and I's. So, like, we talk inclusion, but how many local authorities or organisations out there have actually bought chairs, and put that out to be able to give that experience? Like, it's like really important. You just mentioned that. Massive. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Jack. Obviously, we've got a few more questions. We've got 2 more, but we have a quick fire round. Now, the quick fire round we brought in after Christmas of 2022.
Christmas 2022. You're ahead of it. You're in the future.
2021. Obviously, we started during the pandemic, at the start of the pandemic, and then we brought in the quick fire round because people seem to like it. So Amma, are you ready for our quick fire round?
I don't know how quick I'll be. I'm not very good at. Anyway, let's go.
Right, yes, here we go. So, what is your favourite food?
Oh my gosh, food. I love food. Cheesecake.
Okay, favourite drink?
Pineapple juice or mango juice and tropical juice. Tropical juice, combination of pineapple and mango.
Favourite film or TV show?
Oh my gosh, I don't really. There's so many good films. Shawshank Redemption.
Excellent. Okay, favourite music?
I can't single this out. I just love music, all music. I don't have a type. Jazz, hip hop, funk, rock. There'll be the odd like heavy metal song that I just like, one song that I listen to and I'm like, oh my god, this is good. And so just like eclectic is my favorite music.
Okay, and if you had a superhero power, what would that be and why?
I would love to be able to speak and understand every language in the world, just because interacting with people is incredible, and I'd love to be able to understand what everyone's saying and be able to communicate back to them.
Fantastic. That's the first superpower about language we've had, actually, because usually
that's amazing. Great answer.
It's usually we have teleporting, flying, or I think expanding shortness and tallness. No reference, Jay, to you or Amma.
I
can't believe you two. Oh. The fact that you're laughing and he said it and he's still laughing.
I feel like you seem to be the common denominator in all these things. So
yeah.
I'm not going to
always pick on the short guy.
All I know is that I've got bigger feet than Jay.
You also have to pay a lot more money for those shoes, don't you?
Oh my gosh, are you a child size? Because I'm always disappointed that I can't buy children's shoes because they don't pay tax. They don't have tax on there, so they're very cheap. So you're suggesting that you're less than a size? Is it like 3?
No. It's a size 6, actually.
You're only a size 6.
Not always.
Oh,
It depends.
sometimes it's 6.5. Some brands come up smaller, so you're like, oh, I'm a
Yeah.
size 6. No, I'm not
Yeah,
a size
absolutely. And also, you want. I always like my feet to look certain size with certain jeans, you know.
Oh, sorry. So we're going back to that perception thing that we talked about, where people want to look a certain way instead of just being
No,
comfortable.
I want no. For certain things, like certain shoes, like they're too long for me. I just don't look right. So then
Is that
sometimes I
like
tell them a bit small.
pointy toe shoes?
That's
Yeah,
exactly what I'm talking about.
I understand.
Anyway, our final two questions are: so, what is the future for Amma Agbeze?
Amma
Crazy.
is. I don't know. I'm still working on it. At the moment, I have a bit of a portfolio career, so I'm doing a little bit of law. I do speaking at corporate schools. I'm still on the board of the Commonwealth Games, despite the fact that the games are finished. There's still lots of tidying up to do and finances to sort and um, that type of thing. And I, I for years I've been saying I want to start a charity around sort of sport for development and giving people opportunity and female empowerment. And so I really want to do that. But yeah, I work with a few charities at the moment. I'm an ambassador for a charity in London that deals with giving young people opportunity through sport. They have coaches who go into school and engage with students every day, and so many that typically in disadvantaged areas, but so many children have been given opportunities or had opportunities that they wouldn't have had through sport or just understanding and learning about themselves. That's Greenhouse Sports. I'm a trustee of a charity called Sports Aid that is kind of moving towards the elite level, helping up and coming young athletes in the UK, supporting them financially and with education and things. So I'm a trustee for them. I do a little bit with Sense, who are a charity quite close to where my mom lives, and they help support people with multiple multiple disabilities. And so yeah, so I do a lot of charity work. I do the odd coaching every now and again, mainly in netball, but sometimes just in general physical activity. And at the moment, these are the things that I'm juggling and studying as well. So yeah, I feel like I'm just juggling lots of things, but I don't know when I grow up. I don't know what I would like to be, Mr. Andy.
Fantastic. And our final question, we've had this question since the start of the motivation inspiration interviews at the start, right at the start of the pandemic, all the way to where we are now, because they're continuing hopefully all the way through 2022 and 2023. So if you could think of a quote to support motivation and inspiration, what would that quote be and why?
Wow. A quote to support motivation and inspiration. When I was and I think it's quite a common, lots of people know it now. When I was a shooter, I used to, I don't know if I can plug brands, but Nike's had a, not a logo, a phrase which was just do it. And so I had a t-shirt that I used to keep like in my bag, and it said just do it, and it was kind of just a reminder for me to just have a go because you never know. And then you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I was going to say it's Michael Jordan, but I don't actually remember. But I think it was Michael Jordan, although I don't want to misquote Michael Jordan or take away from the person who did actually say the quote, but it was definitely a basketballer. And yeah, he said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And when I was a shooter, people were like, "Oh my God, she can't shoot to save her life." I could rebound though, and so I would shoot and miss and get the rebound and shoot and miss and get the rebound and then eventually get it in. So my stats weren't very good, but then I just kept on saying to myself, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if I don't even try, I'm never going to know. And I think that applies in everything, like all walks of life. If you want to do something, don't look back in years to come and think, oh my gosh, imagine if I'd done that. And I think at the moment, there's so many things I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine if I'd done like the charity. imagine if I'd set the charity up when I wanted to and when I researched and looked into it, where it could be now or how many people could have been supported or helped. And so, yeah, I think the biggest thing for me in terms of motivation is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. If there's something you want to do, work out how to do it and try. The worst that could happen is you fail, you lose some money, you lose faith, but at least you had a go and you don't know what it could be if it is successful. So try.
Thank
It
you,
was
Emma.
Wayne Gretzky.
Oh, wow. Thank you for looking it up. I need to
Wayne
write that.
Gretzky.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, sorry, I was researching this.
That's why we let you onto the interview.
There you go. I'm doing the work
researcher.
around the back.
Emma, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for supporting our motivation and inspiration interviews. We hope these continue, and we want to do more interviews to support the community locally, nationally, and globally. A pleasure always to see you. I've still got the photos that we took during the Commonwealth Games. Jay wasn't there, but that's okay.
Yeah. I guess there were some people doing the hard work, and then other people just I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah, doing all the research to make sure everyone's correct. That's right.
Doing the planning, you were planning everything. You got us to where we needed.
That's what Jay always says. He's the brains, I'm the brawn.
And you need both of those. So a great pair.
That's right. That's right. It's like Tango and Cash.
Oh god.
Go in there.
Yeah.
It's
like I was thinking of something else.
Thelma and Louise, I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Tom and Jerry.
Oh yeah. That's
even better.
Actually, I think Tom and Jerry is better because they're kind of obviously they do go together, but they're a little bit occasionally.
Yeah.
And Jerry Small.
Nothing wrong with being small. Small.
No, that's right.
Small packages.
You'll find that I also get smaller jeans as well. And so,
show. To be fair, I'm only an inch taller than Jay. To be fair, and I'm only size 7, so
it's taller. Although
my 5-year-old is taller than me.
It doesn't matter how tall you are. It's probably more. Is it what
quality.
Size doesn't matter. It's what you do with it that counts.
Exactly. And I'm quick and intelligent and confident and charismatic.
Yes,
positive and very positive.
It's been a pleasure to interview you. Thank you so much. Continue the work that you're doing with regards to Commonwealth Legacy and everything that you're doing at the moment with the charities. You are a star, and well done on everything that you've achieved. And as Jay said, you are a grafter, and you go out and be yourself and do everything that you do for a reason. So thank you.